given 22 years in prison, and I served 15 years of the 22 years. And it was very hard for me to learn how to deal with prison and the prison life and know the things I took my family through and what I took myself through. And before I go on, I just want to say that my story is just not about prison. It's about overcoming, changing, and moving forward.
Amen.
And through this journey that I went through, I can honestly sit here and tell you that I never questioned God once. I believed in God. Thank you. I believed in God the best way that I knew how to believe in God, and I prayed to Him the best way that I knew how to pray to Him. And I just want to read a few verses that I feel like apply, to me and my life and my situation. The first one is Matthew 25, chapter 36. It says, "I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me." And I can say with all honesty that I know God was there with me. And people say, "Eddie, how did you do it?" I said, "Man, it was God. It was God, and I know that I couldn't do it without Him. And I'm not going to lie, like I prayed every day, like I should have prayed, but I prayed as much as I could have. And through it all, it was very hard because I knew that I had to survive physically. But at the end of the day, spiritually is what kept me grounded. My spiritual life is what kept me grounded. And I have a few more that I want to read. Isaiah 42, chapter 7. "To open blind eyes, to bring out prisoners from the dungeon, and to those who dwell in the darkness from prison." And I believe that, God can find you anywhere. I had people question me and other brothers and sisters that was in prison. Why people always find God when he was in prison? And I was like, God didn't tell us where to find him. He just said find him. And I said we the same people in society only pray when things go wrong. So my thing was I was just grateful that I was able to find God and to recognize God and to keep God close to heart. The next one is Psalms 142, verse 7. "Release my soul from prison so that I may give thanks to your name. Righteous people will surround me because you are good to me." And I can honestly say, coming home in 2006, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to use a subway or anything. And everything was basically new to me as far as living as a grown man. And I prayed to God. I said, "God, please remove the people out of my life that don't need to be there and replace them with people that need to be there." And I can honestly say that God has placed so many people in my lives, today that really been there for me. And Pastor is one of them. I remember I couldn't get a job because of my charges, but Pastor, took a chance for me, and gave me a job. And people say, "Eddie, you clean up," but I take pride in what I do. I take pride in what I do. And the last one is Galatians chapter 3, verse 23 through 25. "Before this faith came, we were held prisoners by the law, locked up until faith should be revealed, so that the law was put in charge to lead us to Christ, that we might be justified by faith. Now that faith has come, we are no longer under the supervision of the law." And I say that to say that I honestly didn't know if I was going to ever come home once upon a time because of the way that I was living in prison. I didn't know how to change as a person, even though I felt that I had God in my life. And throughout the time of me being in prison, my family, people out of my family, my best friend, who was going to be my wife in the future, was there with me, Yeah. She was there with me the whole 15 years and was very supportive. And I just want people to know that, we say what we can't deal with and what we can't go through. I didn't know I can do 15 years. I don't know anybody that can actually say, "Yeah, I knew I can do 15 years in prison." I didn't know, but I just kept faith in God and and believed in the people that was with me that they'd be there to help me through this situation. And since I've been home, God has really blessed me with opportunities to self-publish pre-release handbooks for people in D.C., CDs, you know, for people, families to listen to, and people in prison to listen to. And there's other opportunities, be it speaking at colleges, high schools, job corps, and be in the newspaper for good things this time. Yeah. And I just want to say today that if I didn't know that God was real then, I know that he's real now. You know, I really know that he's real now, because I look at my life now and I say most of the people that I knew that were in the streets with me are dead or have life in prison. And, you know, the prison thing has affected many people's family, you know, from all, you know, all across the board. And I just say, you know, just never give up. You know, just never give up, pray, and just believe in God. You know, never doubt yourself, you know, because I can say honestly that it's things I'm doing now that I never expected to do, you know, and I'm very grateful, you know, to be in the situation I'm in. And when I was in my church, a sister read a passage to me. I'm not sure, I think it was in Job with a locust destroyed everything. But in the passage, it spoke about how God gonna restore all those things at the end. And I just say God has restored my life, my freedom, and many other things, you know. And I just say today, when I pray to God, I ask God just for health, understanding, and a safe passage. That's it. Anything else come, it's an extra reward. You know, it's an extra reward. You know. But another thing I want to talk about is, you know, patience, you know, and understanding. You know, me having patience, people say, Eddie, you did 15 years, you got patience. I said, yeah, I ain't had no choice, but, you know, because I was behind those bars. But it's a different patience when you're on the street, when you're learning how to work, because, you was a paper boy, you was a child, you didn't have a job. You learning how to be responsible, you learning what a man is. You know, so that was one of the most important things with me while I was in prison, was learning how to be a man. And learning what man was. And the definitions in there a lot of time was wrong. You know, you had a few men in there that knew the definition of a man, but the definition that I was going off of was the man who had all the girls, the material things, rough stuff and things like that. But at the end of the day, I kept applying those things in my life and I couldn't change. So I used to basically trick the women that I used to write, and I asked them, you know, what do you think a man is? Because I was ashamed to tell them that I didn't really know what a man was. And through a lot of their definitions, I started to mold myself through a lot of their definitions. And I started, you know, dealing with the right people and staying away from the wrong people. And it's the same thing now. I mentor, and it's so hard sometimes because you find a lot of kids that don't have a father. I grew up without a father. But I'm not going to blame that on my situation because I knew right from wrong. You know, and I just feel like I do my mother discredit by saying that, you know, I could have done better, you know, if my father was living. You know, but I'm just very grateful to have my family with me, like I said, and the people that's giving me a chance. And I just feel like I'm going to show the world that, you know, people can overcome and people can change. You know, and I just want, my last thing before I, you know, sit down, I just want to say that I used to always be offended when people used to talk bad about me and about my situation. And then I sat down one day and I said, Eddie, people talk bad about Jesus. People spit on Jesus, people kill Jesus, people stone Jesus. So who am I to say that I shouldn't be talked about? You know, so my thing is this, I don't worry about that anymore. I know who I am today, I know what I'm trying to accomplish, and I believe only through God that I'm gonna be able to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish and the help of the people that's in my life. And I'm gonna continue to do what I gotta do. And I just want to say thank you, Pastor, for allowing me to come up here and speak. You know, and I just wish all y'all the best in y'all life, you know, and God bless y'all.